Light the beam, everybody. It's time for Nerdy for 30. It's the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer, aka the Critic's Choice. With me, as always, it's my faithful co-host, Mr. Tim Keck, aka the People's Champ. Now, today we are going to be talking about the biggest cinematic experience of my lifetime. I think the biggest cinematic experience of Tim's lifetime. I think the biggest cinematic experience of all of our lifetimes. We are, of course, talking about Barbenheimer. We did it on Saturday. We had a blast. I mean, what more can I say? Tim, Barbenheimer, give me your take.
This was a big one, right? This felt like an actual event. Wasn't it something like 20% of people that bought tickets for one of these bought two for the same day, bought like one for each movie going to the same day? Like, this seemed like an event. We wanted to honor that event by doing the Barbenheimer podcast. We're talking both movies. We're going to spoil both of them probably. Kevin, it was a hell of a day. You know, we did Oppenheimer. Then we went to a great restaurant, had a great meal, enough time to recharge, saw Barbie. It was an event, man. It was an event. The energy in the theater was real. There were so many people dressed up. I think more people dressed up for Barbie, but we were at least one theater where the line was unmanageable. People couldn't control it. It was a lot of fun. Overall, a great experience, Kevin. Barbenheimer.
Great experience.
I think if I have to pick, I liked Oppenheimer more. I know we kind of disagree on that. Oppenheimer felt like a real ride. Like, it felt a little more important somehow. Like, it was, I was thinking this is going to win an Oscar or something. Just the pacing's great. The acting was so good. It was pretty serious. There were also really funny moments, I thought. And then Barbie, I think I left.
I don't know if that's what Christopher Nolan was going for, but sure.
I think there are funny moments. They did one of my favorites was they had this round table and they're all talking across it, but there's a giant centerpiece. And so they keep moving the centerpiece so they can see who's across the table. And they cut back and forth from this scene. And every time they cut back to it, they move the centerpiece again. And then finally, someone just picks it up and Tim moves it off the table. I thought that was so funny. I mean, they're not like jokes, but there are definitely weird situational things that I think granted some levity. And Barbie, I think I left the theater being like, it's fine. And then as I've been thinking about it more, I was like, it was pretty. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Barbie. I just don't think I was as high leaving the theater as I was for Oppenheimer. How do you feel?
I respect that. I totally respect that. I had the complete opposite opinion. I was lit up after seeing Barbie. I had a blast. I thought Barbie was an incredible movie, an incredibly important movie, despite its ties to corporate America. And Oppenheimer really did not do it for me, and that's okay. Movies are subjective. I'm not trying to take down anybody's enjoyment of Oppenheimer here. The Christopher Nolan fans are many, and they are passionate, and that's okay. This one was not for me. And while we talk about that movie on this podcast, I'll try to explain why it wasn't for me, but if it was for you, I'm not attacking you. A lot of my close friends loved this movie, and it bums me out. Oh my
God.
It bums me out to think about critiquing this movie and having that burst somebody else's bubble. There are certain movies that are just objectively bad, like The Munsters. We can all shit on that and have fun together. But,
honestly, I feel way worse about shitting on Barbie, which I'll probably do a little bit. Oppenheimer, the acting was insane in this, I thought. I thought it was insane.
Did you think they were crushing it? So, okay, you know what? Let's just dig right into it. I'm going to shout on Oppenheimer. I thought everybody, for the most part, was very bad in Oppenheimer. And I thought Oppenheimer was maybe an actually bad movie. Everybody knew that they were in a movie that was going for an Oscar, and they were behaving as though they were going for an Oscar. We used to play a short form game in college called Oscar Winning Moment, where the improviser's on stage, you're doing a scene, and then somebody yells out, Tim, this is your Oscar winning moment. You have to deliver an Oscar-worthy monologue on this spot and really play it up like you're going for that statue. And that's what I felt like everybody was doing in this thing, with the exception of Florence Pugh, Flo Pugh, Pew Pew, we love her and everything. She's great. And Matt Damon, who was just having fun and being in a movie. Everybody else I thought was really dialing it up.
I I guess they were dialing it up. They all had, I thought it was tonally the same though. It felt like everyone was in lines like dialed up in the same way. It was very self-serious. Everyone had this kind of stilted delivery, and that was kind of the tone for everyone in the movie. Matt Damon being an exception. I think even Florence Pugh kind of fell into that a little bit too, and was definitely eating it up. I think that was just I think that's what they were going for. I think they did. I think they all took their cue from Nolan, who took his cue, or Cillian Murphy, who took his cue from Nolan, and they all kind of synced up, and it made sense. I didn't think any one character stood out in a bad way, aside from Josh Peck. Like, why the heck is Drake and Josh the one pushing the button for the bomb dropping? We don't need that. Like there are definitely some celebrity cameos. Like Casey Affleck is in this for all of 5 minutes, but I think it makes sense that he's in it because he's a recognizable name. He's a celebrity, I guess, and it adds weight and importance to this role. Josh Peck, I don't know what we get out of having Josh Peck push the button. I don't think he needs to be there. He's a bad actor, and that took me out of it for sure. Josh Hartnett, I thought, was great. I was like, do I have to see more things with Josh Hartnett in it? Emily Blunt's great. Yeah. Jack Quaid's in it for some reason. I don't know why that guy's in it. I mean, there were definitely there were a couple of standouts. Rami Malek is just silent in like 5 scenes, and then at the end he delivers a monologue, and I was like, I'm gonna be so pissed if Rami Malek doesn't say a goddamn thing in this movie. Like, what a waste of time. Like, he's messing with us. It felt like Nolan was messing with us for some of this casting. Like, I was supposed to expect more, or knew that character was important. I'm sure he played with the celebrity of the actors as well to like get the point across for certain things.
Oh, for sure. I think there was a concerted effort to cast younger actors as the young scientists, many of whom we hear their names, and they are people whose names we know, which if you're a scientist, you're probably pretty famous. If both of us, who neither one of us are scientists, know their names. Not famous enough that I can remember any of those names right now, though. But I think there is that thing, though, where the older actors are the older statesmen in the government, and then the younger actors are the new recruits that have been brought in. So it seems like a pretty conscious effort for him to kind of draw a line in the sand right now for who the current movie stars are and who the up-and-coming movie stars are. My dude Alden Ehrenreich is in this. That's the guy that I was raving about in Cocaine Bear. I think he was tremendous in Cocaine Bear. He was in the movie Solo. I think he's better than people give him credit for there, too. He did a better young Han Solo than the deep-faked Han Solo they had in Indiana Jones. So it definitely feels like it was on purpose. I think I just didn't like the fact that they were going for the self-important thing, because I think I just don't buy into the general conceit of this movie, which is that Oppenheimer is the most important man who has ever lived. I just don't buy it. There's something that bums me out that I can't get away from about the fact that this was, by all accounts, a very shitty guy, and we just see him get glorified the entire movie. Time after time after time, people are saying, you are such a genius. The entire world needs you. Like, you don't have time to feel sorry about this bad thing that you did right now. The world needs you, Oppie. And it just sucks. It just sucks to see someone getting glorified in that way. And it'd be one thing if we had a lot of recordings of interactions between Oppenheimer and his wife, and we know, like, wow, this is a real reproduction. But 99% of the script is a dramatic reenactment of things playing out 60 times faster than they actually would have in real life, because Nolan is trying to cram 2 movies into one movie. He doesn't have time to let a scene go on for longer than 4 seconds. So people have to say a ton of subtext across the course of like 3 lines, because that's the entire length that a scene is. It's just, I think it's just not for me. I'm already going too far down the rabbit hole, Tim.
Yeah, I'm bummed you didn't enjoy the first biopic movie you've ever seen, because that seems to be like, oh man, they're acting like this guy's so important. It's like, wow, didn't you? Oh, it's not like they didn't do that with Johnny Cash or fucking Ray, or I mean, I don't know, insert any other Insert Alexander. I mean, I don't know. I can't even think of any of that. RBG. Are you kidding me? Like, whatever. They act like these people are the most important people in the world. They're very self-serious. People are telling them things like they're special all the time. That's like just what happens in a biopic. I think that's the form. Man, okay, then you don't like biopics. But that is what happens. Christopher Nolan is making this movie conceivably because he believes that Oppenheimer is the most important man in the world. So that's what he's coming into this with, and that's how he's presenting it to us. Is he actually the most important man in the world? I don't know. Is he a good guy? No, he's showing us all the flaws of this guy. But I think that's a classic biopic trope too, is this guy's so talented, but he's cheating on his wife. He's so talented, but he can't raise his own son. He's got things to focus on. He's got priorities. I mean, the truth is this guy in real life was probably a friggin' weirdo. I mean, anyone who's too smart is weird, man. It's always anyone who's too good at something. I think they're very interesting, but then social skills start going out, like out the window. It's like building a character in Mario Kart, right? You can go all speed, but you got to sacrifice weight. You can go all weight, but you're going to have to sacrifice, turbo boost or whatever it is. You get God. Mario, he's well-rounded. He's okay at a bunch of stuff, but Oppie is cranking it up on this physics stuff, and just all of his other stat lines are down to the bottom. And I do like, I enjoyed watching him. I thought he was really good. I don't know. Emily Blunt's good. Robert Downey Jr. is maybe my beef in that I don't necessarily appreciate that the whole movie as a biopic is about Oppenheimer. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's about Louis Strauss, who's Robert Downey Jr.'s character. And I think that's a weird shift. I get why, if you have a guy like Robert Downey Jr. who wants to do this role, it's great. I think he's crushing it. He's giving great monologues. His scenes are interesting. But the whole thing is about Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer's like internal struggles, Oppenheimer's behavior acting out, Oppenheimer fighting the system. And then it turns out that all of this conflict around Oppenheimer was generated by Robert Downey Jr. and it's a story of jealousy, which when I'm also like, why Robert Downey Jr. wasn't in, well, I mean, he was in scenes, but it's when they're cutting to the future and back. He's not involved. Louis Strauss is not involved with creating the bomb. He's not involved with Toledo or wherever the heck they were out in the middle of the desert,
Toledo, Ohio, the vast desert of the American West.
Wasn't anywhere near Toledo. And then all of a sudden he's important, and all of a sudden Oppenheimer's at his kid's birthday or wedding or whatever, and they want to meet him and he's blowing him off. Like, what? I don't like Robert Downey Jr. Louis Strauss came into this chronologically so late that I felt like the story was over by the time we got to him. But the way Nolan's presenting this, I also push back to this whole like letting the scenes go thing. He's hopping around so much. I think he's telling the story he wants to tell. And it's the kind of thing where this could have been the most boring movie ever. And instead, it feels like a ride where you're going from one thing to the other, back and forth, ahead in time, back in time. There's all these short quips. They convey so much. And they talk a lot, but they also have to convey information in a couple of lines so that you know what the next scene is, even though they're going so fast. It reminded me of the way we used to do improv. I thought just super fast nonsense, back and forth. And then at the end, it all kind of made sense and built towards something. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I'm sorry. You don't feel that way. Do you have a thief? Did anything stand out to you as good?
I do think, I think Florence Pugh made the most with her screen time. Let's see. I was still he did manage to ratchet up a lot of tension for the test, the Trinity test, where this bomb's going to go off. You know that it happens. The countdown's happening. But he did build real tension in that theater. Everybody was holding their breath. Somebody, I think it was Spencer, said he had to pee like a half hour before the bomb went off. But he was like, no, it's going to happen soon. I can't do it. Like everybody was glued to their seat while that was happening. I mean, like clearly, Nolan is a master filmmaker. In no way am I trying to say that he's not. Clearly, he had a vision for what he wanted to do here. I think it seems like he accomplished what he wanted to do here. I think that it didn't jive for me. But again, I respect that he did it. Like, I will always respect when somebody takes a swing and does something really hard on purpose versus just kind of like making a mess of nothing on a canvas and being like, I mean, here's my homework, I'm turning it in. So like, he had such a vision for this thing, and it does show. I think just the finished result felt like, I don't know, just not up my alley.
Yeah. So you think it was not your cup of tea, but the tea was made well?
Yeah, I think it's an incredible drink that is not the drink that I ordered.
And you toughed it out, and I appreciate that. Fantastic. Matt Damon, great. Gosh, Gary Oldman as Harry S. Truman, very fun.
I want to ask this. Yeah, who is your favorite cameo? Because there were multiple times when people would show up in this movie and the audience would gasp because they had no idea this person was in there.
I think Rami Malek was the most surprising one. Yeah, I think that might be it for me. Alex Wolff, I recognized immediately. I mean, I recognized a bunch of these guys. But Rami's the one where I was like, this seems incredibly intentional, because he is a silent character in the background for a while. But everyone's like, oh, that's Rami Malek. So then when he shows up at the end to deliver evidence, I instantly remembered, hey, that was him from the first thing. And I thought that was great. I thought that was a good thing to do. There's definitely some moments where you're like, this actor wouldn't have taken this role unless they got to do a cool thing. You know?
Yeah, he was the real bomb. They showed us him, and it's like, when's it going off?
Also, Matt Damon's great. I think I just love Matt Damon in general. He's awesome.
He's wonderful.
Okay. I think
I do have one. Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
I was going to say, I got another question for you on Oppenheimer. Have you heard this theory that it's about Batman?
Why? No. What is the theory?
So Nolan is a very autobiographical filmmaker. And I've heard some people speculating online that the entire vibe of Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan reckoning with the part that he played in kicking off the superhero movie explosion. So with The Dark Knight, he was effectively the Oppenheimer of superhero movies. And after he detonated that bomb, it led to everything else we've had in the past 15 years. Which is why the theory goes Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Louis Strauss, is because Iron Man himself is there in the movie as the biggest villain that's haunting Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes great sense. That's good. I mean, Iron Man came out before Dark Knight. I think it was the same year as Batman Begins, right? I think they both come out at the same time.
Iron Man was 2008. Actually, yeah, Iron Man and Dark Knight came out the same year. Batman Begins was 2005. Oh,
okay. That makes sense. Yeah,
I want to point out that I knew that, and I could not list the names of the famous scientists earlier.
No, why would we do that? It's much more important to know the dates of superhero movies. Yeah, man, I don't know. They're sure that could definitely be it. I mean, there has to be some part of Christopher Nolan that resonates with Oppenheimer, right? He has to see himself mirrored back in Oppenheimer in some way. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be as interested in this topic. Right. There's something about a tortured genius who messes up, or there's all this weight on your shoulders and things like that. I think it is a relatable character to some extent, but also, a weirdo. And Cillian Murphy is just great. I think he's just fantastic. Want to talk Barbie?
Yeah, let's take a quick break and talk Barbie.
You want to take a quick break and then talk Barbie?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking that's where we put the ad in.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with Barbie.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
All right, Tim, Barbie, what do you got for me?
Barbie. So I did like it a lot. I think I do just have like some basic complaints about it. Like, Will Ferrell's character is there. It feels like they just kind of put the camera on him and said, hey, can you do Will Ferrell stuff? You know, like it feels very forced. I also think I mean I agree with all the messaging in Barbie. I think our politics and social opinions line up pretty well. But there is no metaphor in this. There is no subtext. There is no innuendo. There is no symbolism. Anything they want you to know, they say, and they repeat it over and over again, and they beat you over the head with it, which is just not a thing I love in movies in general. I like to have to think about it just a little bit, right? For example, when we see the head of Barbie, and it's the COL, and it's all the conference people. It's like a horseshoe table, and it's all men, and they're all yelling at each other, and they're all talking about women in this way that they clearly aren't women and don't understand women. I get it. I got that. I understand it. But then Barbie comes in and is like, so where's the women? And then they do this thing, and then they do this like kind of hacky bit where Will Ferrell is like, actually, I know a woman. I'm a son of a woman and a bro, which is just kind of like a running gag at this point. Like it's been done because politicians say that all the time. It's a thing. And she's asking, and it's just like spending time on this thing that I already got, which I would for not as much return. And I think part of that is intentional because they want a younger audience to be appealed to this. And I think maybe a younger audience needs more and wants more of that. And so I just don't always enjoy that in movies. I want to have to think a little bit. I want to have that moment where I'm like, oh, that's smart, or I want an aha moment. And there's none of that in Barbie. It doesn't exist. I do feel bad criticizing it at all because there were so many people dressed up for Barbie. There were so many women in pink getting excited for this thing. And as far as I can tell, they all loved the movie. Like anyone who dressed up and got excited for Barbie and went to Barbie, I think you got exactly what you wanted. I think they left very satisfied. They were very happy. People were cheering during it. People are like, really, really excited about it. And I think it's just maybe an Oppenheimer thing for you where it's like, this just isn't for me. It's a little too, paint by numbers. It's a little too, there's no surprises in it. It's all kind of like, basic and repetitive. I don't think people necessarily have that much stuff to do. There are great jokes in it. And I do want to talk, about the cast a little bit, but it just, it's not my thing necessarily. I didn't love it, even though I enjoyed it.
This is wonderful. We really are. We're completely flipped on these. I am one of those people. I dressed up for this movie. I got exactly what I wanted out of it. And that was going to be my exact comparison too, is that Oppenheimer is all subtext and Barbie is all text. But I think that's exactly what this movie should be. Like you said, it's talking to a younger audience that might not have heard these things before, may not have heard them explicitly before, or may not have thought that there was any way that mass media was ever going to say it explicitly before. I think these are concepts that we are all talking about, but there is value in one of the absolute biggest movies of the year, thanks, largely to advertising, but one of the biggest movies of the year explicitly saying it. I think that there's also value in all of those things being said explicitly as text with no chance of misinterpreting what they mean for any boyfriends or partners that got dragged there and might not have exposure to this ideology the same way we do. Like you said, we are pretty aligned politically, but a lot of people don't necessarily have conversations about this, don't talk about this, don't talk about. I think a lot of men, especially a lot of straight white men, probably aren't having conversations at bars about life being harder for women. So there's definitely value in if you are just like a dude who got dragged away from Call of Duty to come see this movie because it was your girlfriend's time to pick the movie. I think there's value in that being stated explicitly in a way that you might not have heard before because it's just not penetrating your bubble of the things you normally consume. I have also heard some of this stuff before. I've heard some of these jokes and stuff before, but I think those weren't for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine knowing this movie is just not for me. I think there are a ton of butthurt men, online complaining
Oh
about it.
yeah.
And it's just like they just need to grow up, like think outside of themselves at all. I do think there was like even, there's some critiquing of like both genders and how like all of us kind of just allow these systems to be maintained and stay in place. And so I don't think it's just a straight man bashing movie.
Mm.
I think it is, it's critical and it's constructive, and I think you're right, it's a net positive on the world. And the actors in this, a lot of great cameos, Kevin, a lot of good
Oh
stuff.
boy.
Margot Robbie was in it. Greta Gerwig, I guess, I think she had a role. Will Ferrell, Emma Mackey, Simu Liu, Michael Cera, Kate McKinnon, America Ferrara, Issa Rae, Emerald Fennell, Connor Swindles. I mean, Rhea
Don't you
Perlman
dare.
was in it.
Don't you
Just
dare, Tim.
every good actor under the sun was in this.
Tim, before you even dare do this, I think one of the most important things about Barbie is that it had one specific piece of messaging that you personally really needed to have, which is that Ryan Gosling is a terrific actor.
I want to tell you, my Ryan Gosling is a low point in this movie for me. I think predictably
God, you
so.
Maniac.
He is
Fucking maniac.
He is not a good actor. He looks uncomfortable the whole time. I mean, Ryan Gosling to me, when he acts, it looks like he's pretending. He's not an actor. He's pretending. He looks a little stiff. He just doesn't. I don't think Ryan Gosling ever looks comfortable on screen. I just don't enjoy it. I don't buy it at all. Kevin, the best part of the movie for me is when Ryan Gosling starts singing.
Yeah.
When he pulls out that guitar, dude, for a moment, I straight up said to myself, like, oh my God, I get it. I had one of these moments of like, wow, this is, and then they're playing that song and they're playing that Matchbox 20 song. And the hardest I laughed in the whole thing is when they zoom out and every guy is playing it. It's so funny. That is an amazing joke. It is great. The dancing, Ryan looks comfortable. And I was like, maybe this just unlocked something in me. Maybe this is how I see him from now on. And the afterglow carried me through, some scenes after. And then by the time it gets to the end and he's got the code and he's apologizing to Barbie and trying to kiss her, it's like he's back. He's uncomfortable. It's just like he's lost it again. But he was magic. Like, I think I have to watch La La Land now. He was magical when I thought he looked so comfortable, and it's a bit, right? He's acting as this guy who is the butt of the joke, but is also, sincerely singing about this and like trying to get something out. And for the first time ever, it looked like he was like locked in on this and understood it and was just like, it was just great. I thought it was really, really good. And maybe I have to see La La Land. Like, maybe, I think in the past you've said that I am being force fed the opinion that Ryan Gosling is like an action guy. Yeah. And to be fair, almost everything I've seen with him is him trying to be an action guy. And really, he's a song and dance man,
Yes.
Like how Hugh 100%. Jackman is Wolverine and he's badass at it, but really he just wants to sing like Australia on Broadway or whatever it is, right? I think that's Ryan Gosling. I think he should maybe go on like do musicals. I think, what the rest of it I don't enjoy. I don't know more action movies. He should sing a song in every movie he does, and I'll see it. I think this was a revelation for me with Ryan Gosling. This is something he's good at and can do, and I appreciated it.
This is really big. This is huge. I'm so glad that you were able to admit this on this podcast. I'm so interested to hear what you think. I do think La La Land is probably going to do it for you. I think you're going to enjoy that movie. I'm curious if you go into the weird Ryan Gosling wormhole of like Lars and the Real Girl and some of these other movies that he's done where he's not afraid of playing like the very offbeat person. I think you're going to see who he actually is. And then I would love to see you circle back to The Nice Guys after that, because I think that's part of the appeal of him in The Nice Guys is that he is in this role that he should not really be in. And it works. Like, he specifically is bad at being a detective and worked well in that role because he's not supposed to be the action guy.
You say that, but he keeps doing action stuff. I mean, he did The Gray Man. The hook of that isn't that this is a song and dance man who can't do it. I mean, he is trying to be a badass. And I think that's part of the reason why I don't enjoy his acting is because I keep seeing these things where he's pretending. He's pretending to be something he's not. And this whole movie as Ken, he's just pretending. He's like, he wants to be this cool guy. He wants to be like ripped and he wants to be like a man's man. And, you know, like Simu Liu just like gets it. He is that guy. Simu Liu is a man's man. He kicks ass, takes names. I believe it. I believe everything he's doing. Ryan Gosling is like pretend. He's a faker to me. I just don't buy that. He's a song and dance man, and anything that isn't that, I mean, he can fuck off for all I care. But I'd watch him. I'd watch him sing again, though, Kevin. I would.
So I mean, Ryan Gosling, obviously a hot topic of conversation on this podcast, even when we're not talking about Ryan Gosling movies. But I don't want to spend our entire Barbie portion talking about the men in the movie. I think, I mean, Margot Robbie. Can you picture who else would do this as well as Margot Robbie? Because I was trying to think of other people. You know, I think at one point Amy Schumer was attached to star as Barbie. I feel like if this was in the 90s, I could see like Alicia Silverstone doing it, like Clueless era Alicia Silverstone. I struggle to think who else would really nail this role that's around right now. And I think Margot crushed it.
I think you're right. I was thinking Alicia Silverstone or, I'm thinking of who did that girl who did like Wild and that like, oh my gosh. Now she like produces stuff. It seems like, should have thought about it better.
Is that Reese? Is Wild?
Yes, Reese Witherspoon. I thought could have done like a young Reese Witherspoon could have done it.
I thought of her too, but she's very sprightly. She's much more of a skipper.
Yeah, I guess she does have more of that skipper energy. Margot Robbie's great. I kind of think she didn't have that much to do necessarily for some reason. I feel like I could have gotten more Margot Robbie. It felt like it was a lot of Ken. Like it feels like it's a lot of Ken for, you know, an empowering movie for women or all these like positive messages. It's a lot of Ken. And some of it's great. So I enjoy some of it. That was my hardest laugh was a Ken thing, but it's a lot of Ken. I mean, America is another one where I'm a big fan of her. I think she's great. She's so good. She's so talented. So and she had nothing to do. She was just this mom who's like hanging out and, you know, saying generic stuff to her daughter. And, you know, it could have been cool. As soon as it was like the mom has the Barbie, I thought this was going to be like a really cool, like, you know, separation between the mom and her daughter and that she's losing her. But no, they're just immediately best friends and they're cool and they're going to Barbie World and everything's great. So, yeah, it was just a little, I don't know. I think we had opposite views on these movies and yeah, I don't know. Talk about a review preview where they end up stacking up in the order. I think we're going to rank them together.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's a horrible idea. I think it'll just go in the middle of the list like air. We won't be able to agree either way. They probably will end up in the middle of the list because we won't be able to argue one way or the other on each other. We'll find out tomorrow on Review Preview. What did you think, listener? Do you agree with us? Which of these movies did you personally prefer? I know you don't really have to choose, but you do. We've got a poll on this episode on Spotify. Let us know. Also, send us an email. We'll read it on the next Review Preview. Not the one that's coming out tomorrow because we're recording them together right now, but we'll read it on the next one and talk to you then. Until we're back here tomorrow, thanks for listening and stay nerdy, everybody.
Stay nerdy. Light the beam.
Light the beam. Bye.
Bye.